Welcome to Bitcoin Technical Analysis. Today I'm here with Tone Vays, BTC VIX, and George Samman. How's it going today, guys?
Hey, how you doing?
Doing. How's the conference in Miami, Tone?
Got here. We got the opening party tonight and 2 days of the conference, so we'll keep everyone posted.
Excellent, excellent. Okay, George, it looks like you have a Ether chart up. Show us what you've got.
Yeah, sure. So Ether actually has some fundamental reasons for going up. They announced today that they're working with R3 and 11 of the banks in the R3 network to do things on Azure for blockchain as a service. So, that was some pretty positive news. It's still in its infancy stages, but, the price kind of jumped, I think, on that news. But it's also just been in a bullish trend for a while. Obviously, this is a 4-hour chart. The price has climbed and climbed and climbed since it was in that tight range trading for months and months. It might be Ethereum starts to lead some of the other altcoins to the upside. I'm not really paying attention to many of them yet, but I might start looking back in that area. But Ethereum definitely, has been on the upside and has probably some room to run. Might correct in here, but the chart is starting to get semi-hockey stick. Could run quite a bit, maybe back to where it IPO'd. Second chart I have is USD yuan, offshore onshore yuan, and we talked about this last week. China has been trying to get this spread tighter again after letting it get loose, and in doing that, they're trying to portray that they have control over monetary policy. But all the news that's coming out is stating that this thing could go as far as 50% to the devaluation. So we'll keep watching it. Right now, we're seeing it getting tighter instead of spread getting wider. So it hasn't really had that much impact in recent weeks. But as the Chinese economy continues to struggle, this is definitely one we'll watch, as well as what comes out of the PBOC in the coming weeks. I mean, I think they're going to have to start to stimulate. The economic news has not been good. Barclays, who does their own GDP measurement, has it at 5.8% as opposed to the official number, which was around 6.8%. So that's a great disparity. U.S. dollar continues to climb higher. It's at all-time highs. And as we've said over and over again, this has been problematic for commodities and all other currencies and any markets tied to commodities and currencies. U.S. dollar is strong because the Fed has been raised interest rates, and while the economy isn't fantastic in the U.S., it's better than in other places. We could also start seeing some flow back into U.S. stock markets as the appearance of the U.S. market better than other markets continues. Euro USD continues to kind of flatline right above my big resistance level, but it's just not doing much of anything. It's kind of looking for a way to go, and I think that it probably goes down. This is one we've talked about as well in the past, the yen USD, and we don't like that it's been going to the upside. Kind of had a big move up today and then has come back down. I'd like to see this thing start coming down a bit. That to me would be an indication that risk is back on in the global markets. And if we look at some of these indicators here, the MACD and the RSI, they're starting to come off. So you're getting divergence from the price. Potentially that might set up for a downside move in price. Right now, can't really say that, but it looks like actually the MACD is starting to cross over. So maybe we will start to see that. Over here you have the US dollar ruble, made another all-time high. VIX kind of talked about this when he was talking about oil, but I mean, this is an oil commodity denominated play, and it suffered dramatically in the oil route as well as the US dollar climb. Aussie USD, same thing, still at all-time lows. Looks like the MACD is trying to make a turn here, and the RSI is also kind of in a positive place. Well, at least looks like it's starting to divert from price a bit. But again, nothing to really talk about here. I mean, these things are still in a place where you can't really trade them. More just in a place where you could say that the commodity sector is still trying to find a bottom. This is the Shanghai. It recaptured a level after we talked about it last week of 3,000, which is the level that I kind of watch. And It's in a place now where I wouldn't be buying or selling it. I just don't have a direction here at all. But you might be able to get some sort of a bounce in it. But from everything that we're hearing out of China, the market probably has room to fall. I'm not seeing anything in the technical picture that tells me to get into this at all. FTSE, my proxy for Europe, at least for risk on, kind of getting a tower's bottom here in the price. So that might be something that's tradable, especially if we start to see a bottom in other markets, which I'm kind of leaning towards, especially with the S&P. And I don't know that it's a long-term bottom, but it's definitely probably going to be a tradable bottom. Here's the hour chart on the S&P, and as you can see, the RSI has started to turn up on an hourly. MACD is about to have a positive turn, and the commodity channel index as well. We have this resistance line here, got right up to it and bounced off of it. Obviously, this is something that we need to get above if we want to get bullish, but I think maybe we're starting to finally see a place where you can trade. I also like to look at the Russell. The small caps lead on the way up and they lead on the way down. And the Russell has been annihilated and is down about 20% plus on the year. Put in a good candle today, really good candle on really high volume. So that might be something that's workable. If we can get some kind of a positive day tomorrow, you could see it probably on a bounce get back up towards these gaps, 107, 110, and then we'll just have to see where we go from there. Another thing that I like to look at is the biotech index, which is also a very risk-on trade and has gotten hammered as well this year. Put in a reversal candle today, so to speak. I mean, it's not a classic, but a pretty big move from where it was down. And something that you probably can trade here, again, if you think that we're bottoming, and I'm starting to lean towards, we saw a positive move today, and that a bottom is probably in the S&P, at least short term, and we'll get a bounceable trade here. So I'm looking at names in the small cap space to trade. I might even buy some IWM. The 10-year yield has been smashed, and it's gotten right back down into this line. This is a big support level that I have had and talked about before, this 1950, 1980 area. It's in this gap. There's a couple of gaps there to the upside and to the downside, and it's just held in here. And if it holds in here, maybe it moves up. I'm not really going to talk about where it's going to go because that's just is really dependent on Fed, which is next week. And I don't think the Fed can move here. Another rate cut, a rate rise, would be pretty dramatic for a lot of sectors. And we've been seeing a riot against the rate rise already. So the yields here are basically below 2% on the 10-year. That's not a place that I think the Fed wants to see yields. And we'll see. The VIX also had a move up above 30, but it never really got back to these August levels. So that's something that was interesting to watch as the fear hasn't been the same as it was in August. That maybe is something that worries a lot of people, but I'm more concerned about VIX getting back down towards the 20 area. And we're starting to see it drop here. So let's see what happens. If the VIX starts to drop, if we get some kind of stability in the oil price, I don't think it necessarily even needs to go up. We could start to see a nice bounce in the S&P, and I think that's kind of where I'm leaning. I'd like to see evidence tomorrow of the market opening up and having a big day. Earnings on a lot of key stocks are coming up as well, so I think that potentially could have some impact, and that's really next week, and the Fed meeting, of course. So potentially we might see some movement, a small bounce, but next week I think is more critical than this week. And that's all I really have for today.
Okay, thanks a lot, George. That was really interesting with the VIX there and, that related to oil. And, we'll have to keep an eye on that.
Yeah, I think so. You can't get too bullish here on anything. I mean, it was a constructive day in the markets, but man, the way everything has gone down for so long, you really need to wait for a real buy signal here. And today was promising, but bottoming is a process, and you still have to wait and see how we look in the next couple of days, I think, because we've had a couple of days where we thought there was a bottom and then it rebottomed.
Yeah. All right.
Yeah.
I like that. Bottoming is a process. All right. Vix, you want to talk to us about oil today?
Yeah, it'll be pretty short. As many people know that we've been, just in this ever intensifying downturn in oil. We just back out to the daily to show you guys where we are. It should be no surprise. It's just been all doom and gloom with oil. But I thought something today that really caught my eye, that I wanted to bring up for the hangout specifically. So we did have an intraday reversal here after the Dow was down almost, I think, 550 points. So oil was kind of tracking this overall sentiment of bearishness in the markets. But early on in the day, this is just a 15-minute chart of USD CAD. And many people know that there's a pretty close correlation between the Canadian dollar and oil. So since this is US dollar versus CAD, the stronger the dollar is against CAD, usually the worse oil performs. So what I'm really zooming in here is there was some very bullish news out of Canada. It was a data print here where CAD almost sold off. It was like 1.5 to 2 cents here. And the interesting thing is it literally completely retraced this very quickly. And that's really where we've seen this part in oil where I thought oil might actually bounce in this area, but instead it rolled over as USD CAD retraced that full dip. But then we did have it roll back over and actually make new lows. So to me, this is starting to feel like that, really messy top in USD CAD or that messy bottom in oil. I know it's scary to say that there's, to try and pick bottoms and tops, but I feel like this is kind of what we're going to see is these very large retracements followed by, then back to new lows, because these are epic moves in USD CAD. Let me just zoom out just for perspective what some people want to see. Like, look at this month chart of USD CAD. I mean, that's just breathtaking right there. And really, that's all I have. That's just kind of what I'm looking at. I did place a couple trades, won one, lost one, so no real profits today for me. But it's something I'm watching very carefully.
Okay, thanks for that. Yeah, that is a very epic monthly USD CAD chart for sure. Okay, Tone, show us what you have today.
Yeah, definitely. That was an interesting chart. I need to take a look. It'll be fairly cheap. I remember being in Canada just a year and a half ago, and it was almost 1-to-1, and now it's like 45-to-1, 145-to-1. So that's pretty good. All right, I'm gonna kick off briefly. In Bitcoin today, and I personally attribute that to the complete collapse in the stock market. Big believer in Bitcoin, but I don't see demand. I don't see all of these spikes I'm seeing in the last 6 months, probably longer, probably in the last year and a half. It hasn't been new Bitcoin users. It's been mostly speculative traders. And traders just go with the flow, and then they can take things to irrational levels like we had from 50 to 500 at the end of the year. So now I did show the big divergence in the last couple of videos. So I did expect prices to come down. They came down to 3. I personally was looking for something a little bit lower. And we had a little bump. But again, just take a look at the volume. We had bigger volume on that big spike down and on the recovery spike the next day than we had just today. So the volume went down. It's not today. I don't expect up to hold unless we have a complete disaster in the stock market, which I also don't expect. even though today was really bad, as I've talked about in the past. So I did finally get my oversold RSI condition, which is I've been looking for. So this circle right here, I've been looking for this event ever since. Put a box around. Ever since I saw this. So ever since that overbought, I sold. Also, like I mentioned, we usually have multiple hits. So I'll put another box. So here we had of oversold, then we go overbought, oversold, a couple of hits of overbought, and then 3 hits of overbought. I don't think we're done. I think there is still a little more downside. Technically speaking, we did meet the condition enough for a rebound, and we did rebound right off of this condition. I just think that we need to go to new highs and close at new highs above 475, approaching 500 before I really get bullish. I just think there's a little, they're a little frothy. I think they're still a little overbought right now. I am going to get greedy and look for one more hit of the oversold RSI. So to make it short, I am more down leg, one more hit of the oversold RSI, and then look for a turn in the MACD as it now turned negative and went all the way down. So let's talk about the big boy, the so today was seen since big fallout in late August, I believe August 4th. So today started out as a complete massacre. It was looking really, really bad. But towards the end of the day, it really started to rebound. And let's talk about the backdrop real quick. So as we've been, those that are following the video, you had $100 in Bitcoin in regions, lower for this early year scare. And I talk about scare 1950, as we were getting to 1950, 1900 became my new target. I honestly thought that this was a time for a bounce. That did not materialize. And now we have this is a true reversal candle. And as you can see by the screenshot, I did take on a position long in the S&P 500 in the futures market. I went long at 1835. And before I zoom in on that on a 10-minute chart to show you, down at the bottom I have the cash S&P. That's why you see these gaps. And today's candle is very, very similar in the futures market to the cash market. And that's good. So the circle, the little blue circle, is where I entered into the long trade on the S&P. The blue line was the better entry for it. And the reason it was a better entry is because it's a breakdown point earlier in the day, right at this line here, or on breakout above 1830. So those 5 points late, but then it took off. You can see my stop, my profit taking stop is right there. And then I raised it up to probably not all the way to 1870, but it would have been enough to exit right at the top. I thought we were just going to have a complete turnaround, and they're up to 1879. And if we see a positive day tomorrow, I might even raise it. But if it doesn't work out, then we go back down. So this trade could have definitely been profitable. Futures trade is not where I spend most of my day trading. More of an options trader, option spreads, equity options. And some of those stocks were crazy. Something like Twitter was down 8% today and then reversed and was up 15%. So it went from down 8% all the way up to 15% positive. some crazy moves. With a reversal, this doesn't look like a reversal. For a day, I thought this was a reversal pattern. It clearly wasn't. I got out of that very quickly. This was another looking attempt for reversal. Again, you have to get out of that quickly. This does not look like a hammer to me quite yet. It's a future, so it can still finish that way. But I'm not touching oil until it goes back above 30. So it's the strength in the dollar is still causing some oil problems. So I'm not paying attention to that one at the moment. I'm not going to try and time the bottom unless I see something perfect. And finally, we have gold, and gold's been really disappointing. Considering how much the S&P crashed, gold couldn't even break the candle highs of a few weeks ago. So gold is very weak. We have support right there at 10, and now we're forming a new channel. Again, I think gold has not bottomed. I think gold will go all the way down below 1,000. I still think that, especially as that strengthens, and when the S&P reverses, which may or may not been this afternoon. So let's see. This could also be a dead bounce, but it could be a strong dead cat bounce in the S&P. That's all I have to say. Hopefully the action held up and you guys get more.
Okay, thanks a lot for that, Tone, and have fun in Miami at the conference.
Thank you.
Okay, yeah, I'm going to talk a little bit about Bitcoin. There's definitely been some movement in the Bitcoin price. Over here we've got a daily chart, and you can see that big fat green candle that we had today. So, that poked right up into the Ishimoku cloud. We had, we sold off, and then we consolidated right tightly under the daily Ishimoku cloud and kept on poking at the bottom of it right there. And yeah, today it just finally, the price kind of compressed into a smaller range, more or less, and today it just exploded. And also over at the weekly, okay, that big sell-off, you can see that it, touched into the weekly Kumo cloud there and even hit the Kajison there, but it's still consolidating above the weekly Kumo cloud, which is pretty significant, I think. So it still looks like Bitcoin is, I wouldn't say Bitcoin is bearish at all. And what is interesting is here on the weekly, the 26 period lagging line is, it could poke out of that cloud pretty soon. So on the weekly, that's pretty significant, I think. And also on the daily, what happened on the daily is that the price bounced exactly at the point where the 26 period lagging line touched the bottom of the Kumo cloud. So that's also pretty interesting right there. So that's the main thing. And I also want to tell everyone about the sponsor for today's show, which is orderbook.net. There you can trade Bitcoin futures. They have daily futures that settle once a day. They also have right now a futures contract that ends in March, and they have another one that ends in June. You can go 5-to-1 leverage on the daily and 3-to-1 on the other products. You should definitely check them out. Right now, the premium is around $5 to $8 on the different products. They settle on an hourly weighted average of Bitstamp, so definitely check out orderbook.net. It's another futures exchange to check out, and I want to thank them for sponsoring our show. Check out the link in the description. And that's all for today. I want to thank everyone for watching. I want everyone to leave a comment in the comments below, and talk to you next time.